Disclosure. All information we have on these cases are public record. We are not making fun of anyone or anything. This channel is for awareness of cases and entertainment purposes only. Hey guys, welcome back to our channel. We are going to be listening to Renee tell us a story. That's not, well, it's a story. I say story.
We always say story, but
Case.
A case.
That's
a story.
Yeah. Case story.
Whichever. It doesn't, whatever floats your boat.
Alright, take it away, woman.
So, we're going to be talking about a serial killer today. And we're going to be talking about SA, murder, kidnapping, and dismemberment. So, if that's not something you're comfortable with, go take care of yourself.
Yes.
So, people go camping all the time, but you don't expect anything bad to happen. You know what I mean? You're out camping with your family, you think, oh, well, we're having campfires and making s'mores and, singing campfire songs and playing games. Like, you're not thinking anything's going to happen. But that wasn't the case for Marietta Yeager and her family. Marietta Yeager and her family were camping in the summer of 1973, and they were having a great time. One evening, the family went to bed for the night, and Marietta went in to kiss her two girls, which they were in a tent by themselves. She went in to kiss them goodnight. And little did she know that would be the last time that she saw her daughter, Susie. The next morning, Susie's sister came running in to their camper and was screaming that Susie was gone. Marietta went to the tent and discovered that the side of the tent had been slashed open and Susie was nowhere to be found. So somebody took her right out of her tent in the middle of the night.
Gosh.
So David Meirhofer was born on June 8th, 1949 in Bozeman, Montana. His parents were Clifford and Eleanor, and he was one of 5 kids.
Was she a big red dog?
Clifford, the big red dog.
Sorry.
He was one of 5 kids. He spent his childhood living in Manhattan, Montana. And he went to Manhattan High School. And of course, he was very introverted. He didn't like being around other people. There again, all these serial killers and cult leaders and all this stuff, they're always like introverted and don't like being around other people. And you know what's funny is I'm a hairdresser, so I do talk to people all the time. Yeah. And people always say to me, they think I'm an extrovert. I'm really not. No. I'm a total introvert. I'm totally fine by myself, reading or whatever. So it's like, I have the same trait, I guess, as some of these people. They don't like, being around people.
You gonna murder me?
I know, right? I'm gonna wake up tomorrow. Be a murderer. But it's just weird.
Taking a shower.
Because they all, that's not psycho. It's just weird to think that, you have a trait like a serial killer or a cult leader or whatever,
But we're not that stupid.
No. So, the kids always made fun of him in school, of course. I mean, it seems like that happens to them all the time, too. But I think all kids go through that. You have a bully. Everybody has a bully that makes fun of them or does something to them or, stuff like that. He graduated high school in 1967, and he was drafted into the Army in 1968. But then he ended up enlisting in the Marine Corps. Wow. So he went to Vietnam in 1969, and he was awarded a couple of medals and things, not anything major significant, but I didn't really put those in there because let's be honest, I don't care because this guy is a piece of crap.
You ain't gonna
so I'm not going to reward him with his awards. Participation award? Yeah, participation award. No, I'm just not going to go there. So He returned to the U.S. in 1971, and he continued his military service until 1973, when he was honorably discharged. And I don't know what he was honorably discharged for. I have no idea. But he moved back to Manhattan and started working as like a handyman and a carpenter just for people around town. He kidnapped 7-year-old Susie Yeager on June 25th, 1973, out of her tent while camping with her family in Missouri Headwaters State Park. Mm-hmm. David started making ransom calls to the Yeager family, and he made quite a few of these calls. And the police tried to trace them, but they failed on multiple attempts to try to trace it.
They had tracing back there in the 70s?
They did, but I mean, it wasn't like advanced as it is today.
No.
Yeah, so you had to be on the phone for so long, and you had to. There were so many. I mean, it was like crazy. And somebody, calling for a ransom, they're going to be like, "I need $10,000. Meet me at so and so street. Don't bring the police." Click. Mm-hmm. So back then, they're not going to be able to trace that. They're not going to be able to know where you're at. I mean, there's no cell phones and towers and pings and all that. It's phone on the wall with the cord.
Yeah.
So, and I mean, back then there may have still been some of those rotary phones. You know what I'm talking about? My grandmother had one.
My grandparents had one too.
So at this time, around this time, the FBI started using criminal profiling. There again, like Criminal Minds, if you watch it, that's what they do. So David was one of the first serial killers that the FBI used this tactic on.
Oh.
So they would describe him as being a white male, age 25 to 30, likely a local, a background in communications or military, a social outcast, and would have problems being around others. Like, hello, ding, ding, ding. It ain't no wonder they use that today.
Yeah.
I mean, evidently it works.
They found him.
Yeah, for real. So in February of 1974, skeletal remains were found at Lockhart Place, and it was an abandoned ranch in Three Forks, Montana. The remains were determined to be 2 girls, one aged 6 to 8, and the other age 18 to 20. Like I said earlier in the video, David made ransom calls to the Yeager family on multiple occasions. But a year after Susie disappeared, David would call the Yeager house again, 1 year, like to the anniversary of her kidnapping.
Oh my gosh.
Claiming that he still had her. But Marietta demanded to talk to Susie to prove that she was still alive. But of course, David just ignored her request. And Marietta knew that she didn't want to give up hope, but she knew that she probably wasn't here anymore. And Marietta was a very Christian, forgiving type person.
Don't tell me.
So she told David that she forgave him for what he had done.
Bitch.
And that she had, prayed for him and things like that. But she had this call. David was very controlling and wanted to be in control of his situations. But Marietta had flipped the script on him at this point, because she had this call going in her way. And the police had told her to try to get control of the situation, because there again, back then, the longer you kept them on the phone, the easier it was to trace. So she's trying to keep him talking, So she, at the end of this call, she had it going her way. He was crying and saying he was sorry for what he had done and all the things. But she had him on the phone for an hour.
Holy cow!
Yeah, a whole hour. But due to technical issues, the police could not trace this call either.
It smells like fishiness.
I mean,
An hour?
Well, I can't. I mean, it's so crazy in all these cases that the police screw up the first 10 freaking times. You know, before they end up actually getting something, and then more people are dead or more people are hurt because they screwed up the first 10 times they were trying to do so. I mean, I could go on with that for a long time, but I won't do it. I can't believe it. Oh my gosh. So, and David would call her a few more times after this. And of course, they were never able, you know, to trace these calls. But one day, the police got a call from a man in Three Forks saying that there was some long distance phone calls on his phone line that he did not make. So the FBI investigated this, and they went out and they had discovered that the line had been tampered with. And they found a voice gateway and other devices used to do an online break in this guy's phone line. And all the calls that he did not make were to the Yeagers.
Oh, so he's pretty much like, you know who it's like, oh, it's still the internet or it's still the cable from neighbors. So he stole the phone line.
He stole the phone line from this guy on a farm and made the calls to the Yeagers.
I mean,
so they knew that, you know, Susie's kidnapper had been here making these calls, but they still weren't quite sure who it was. During the investigation, though, they had found a few suspects, of course, questioned them, nothing came of it. Somebody had called in to them and said, you need to check my neighbor, David Meirhofer. You know, he blah, 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 had a bunch of stuff that he was telling the police. And so they actually questioned David at some point in the investigation. But, of course, they didn't have the evidence on him at the time either. So they let him go then because, I mean, they didn't know it was him then. So over time, though, all the evidence they kept getting kept pointing back to David. It was like everything he was doing was just bringing the police closer to him during this entire investigation. So all the evidence kept coming back to David. They had a witness that said a man matching his description had made several trips.
He made mistakes. He made them tips.
He'd made several trips to Three Forks between 1973 and 1974 to do some of his handyman work for, you know, people around town. And he also had done some work on the Lockhart farm where those remains of those two girls were found. So, I mean, it just keeps coming back to him.
He's not very good at covering his footsteps or his trails or stuff like that.
For real. Of course, you know, back then they didn't have, like, the things they do now, like DNA and all the stuff. So, like, I mean, I don't know what he was... I guess he was trying to, but it wasn't working out too good. The FBI also looked at his travel schedule, and it put him at all the places where all the evidence that they had found.
Dang, dude.
So they brought him in for questioning again. And while they were questioning him this time, they recorded it. And they played the tape for Marietta. And she said that voice was definitely the man that had been calling her. So they, you know, she recognized it right off the bat because, I mean, he'd made several calls.
Yeah.
You know, over the last year and a half of, you know, since he kidnapped Susie. So they went and arrested David because they're, you know, they've got her saying this. They've questioned him. He's been in all these places. So they're thinking, okay, we've got enough to arrest him and at least keep him for a little bit. So they get a warrant to go into his home while he's in jail. And they searched his home and found bloody women's clothes, washed out bloodstains, and a human hand clutching 2 fingers in the refrigerator.
Like this?
Like, I guess like
So
that.
this was
my dishwasher.
my dishwasher was big. So it was like a hand, and it had like 2 fingers.
I guess. I mean, they don't show pictures. I don't know. It just says a hand clutching 2 fingers that was left in the fridge.
Gross.
Yeah. So when he found out, when they came back and told him what they had found,
He said,
I wanted for a friend. Yeah. Saw my hand and fingers in the fridge. I'm holding that for my cousin. Oh, Lord. He confessed because he knew that it, they knew they had enough evidence. They found the fingers in the hand. So he ended up confessing. And he confessed to Susan's abduction and murder and another girl. Her name was Sandra Smolligan, who had gone missing in February of 1974. And David said that he had taken her on a date once and then asked her for another date, and she turned him down. So evidently that pissed him off.
Oh,
so he went and kidnapped her in her sleep and ended up suffocating her, SAing her, and then dismembering her and burning her remains in a barrel on that Lockhart farm. So that was the remains of the girl that they found.
Yeah,
that was 18 to 20. So that was her. And he said that he killed Susie the day after he kidnapped her. So this entire time, he's been calling the Yeager family. Susie's been dead this whole time.
Oh.
Because he killed her the day, that morning after he took her.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't understand why he's calling them. Like, I don't think he ever called any of his other victims' families.
But why? My thing is why did he amp it? Like, okay, he killed this one girl because of turned down for the date. Why did he go after a child? Was it just the high of it?
Sick. I've seen and read a couple of things where, they said that there was really no evidence of anybody being around the family. There's just other campers and things, but they had noticed like there had been a fire like up on a hill that had been burned, but they didn't know when that fire had been used because they were evidently in the middle of a drought at that time. And so, but standing at that place where that fire had been, they could see where the Yeager family had been camping.
Oh,
so I don't know if he was like standing up there watching them.
I don't like that.
I mean, I did read that where, the police had said that or whatever.
I hate that feeling of being watched.
So who knows? I mean, he may have just been up there watching them and thought that the girls were easier to get to because they had other children, those boys too. So the girls were sleeping together in a tent. I think the boys were sleeping together in a tent, and then the mom and dad were sleeping in like one of those covered truck.
Oh yeah.
So I guess he just thought maybe the little girls would be easier to get to because Susie was the youngest of the kids. So
put up less of a fight.
I guess that's what he thought. Yeah. But I don't know. He could have been standing up there watching them.
Ew, I like that.
I know. So David's attorney brokered a plea deal to avoid capital punishment if he confessed to Sandra and Susie's, and then he got him to confess to 2 other murders to avoid, I guess, capital punishment. I mean, I guess that would be maybe the death penalty.
Yeah.
So he ended up confessing to 13-year-old Bernard Pullman, who was shot on March 19th, 1967, he was swimming up in the park and he was on a bridge, and David just shot him.
Just for funsies?
Just for funsies, I guess.
Watch this.
He said he was in a bad mood that day.
Go punch a tree, you don't have to kill somebody.
I know. So he murdered that little boy, bless his heart. And then he confessed to 12-year-old Michael Renee. He was beaten and stabbed to death in his tent.
Oh my God.
While on a Boy Scout trip.
Oh.
And his friend evidently didn't hear any of this going on, because when his friend woke up, Michael was laying next to him,
black and
dead.
Oh my God.
And I'm like,
can you imagine waking up to that?
Yeah.
Oh.
So that happened on May 7th of 1968 when he murdered Michael Renee. But he confessed to those 4 killings. So 4 hours after confessing, David hung himself in his cell with his sheets. So there was no trial. There was no,
Yeah.
That just makes me so mad, because it's like nobody technically gets justice.
No.
Like, you've chosen to take yourself out of the equation and not even, get punished for what you've done. So he just took the easy way out. And all these families, are mourning their loved ones that have been murdered. It's ridiculous. It makes me so mad when people do that. Because you should have to, face your punishment for what you've done.
Yep.
But whether he's here or not, these poor families don't have their loved ones. Mm-hmm. So really, whether he's here or not, I guess it doesn't really make a difference, because that's not going to bring their loved ones back, So, but they said that he was schizophrenic, but we really don't know, because, he offed himself so soon after, all this went down, that there was no time to have him evaluated or, seen by anybody. So, but I think a lot of times that when things like this happen and they don't know what to say, or, they don't know what to diagnose you with, it's like, okay, well, you're schizophrenic.
Yeah.
They use that a lot, it seems to me. Like, that's the only thing they can come up with if they don't know what else to say.
It's like you check 2 boxes in their evaluation. It's like, all right, you've got this.
Yeah.
It's like, I can fake that.
But, I don't know who said he was schizophrenic. I'm not really sure. But that's been said, so I don't know. But Susie's mom, Marietta, like I said, she was such a nice person. She works for family members of murder victims, and she lectures at schools and universities and churches. She says she's found the courage to forgive David, and like I said, she even prayed for him. So she's kind of, tried to help other people and move on with her life. I guess, helping other families of murder victims would give you, I guess, some sort of peace, helping, because that happened to you.
I don't think I could ever forgive somebody for doing that.
I know, that would be hard, wouldn't it?
Oh, yeah. I don't want to carry that anger around with me, because that anger can really sour you in your life.
Yeah.
But
I think maybe that's where she comes from, too. She's probably like, I can't hold this.
I don't know. You always will hold anger. No matter how many times she goes, oh, I forgive him. Like, you're still going to have that anger in you. I just don't think I could ever be like, to their face, or like she on the phone, I forgive you, I pray for you. Like, no.
But she said she went through the whole, anger, wanting to take him out, thing.
Yeah.
But then I guess she just couldn't hang on to all that anger, like you said. But that was the story of David Meirhofer. He's a piece of crap.
I guess he just didn't have like a there's that word again we don't know. Like he wasn't going after just females.
No, it was like they think that he killed more people.
Yeah.
But that is the only 4 that he confessed to before.
I just wonder whose hand that was in the freezer.
I think it was the girl.
Oh.
The one he dated.
Yeah.
And she told him no on a second date. I'm pretty sure it was hers.
So I guess that woman was his first quote unquote victim. You would say.
No.
Who was?
It was. No, it was the 2 boys.
Oh, yeah.
Because,
just kidding.
Let's see. Bernard was killed in 1967, and then Michael was killed in 1968. He did not
kill them until like the 70s.
He took her in 1974.
Yeah.
And then he Hers was in 1973 was Susie's. So the boys were before that, the girls. But I mean, as far as we know, Susie was his last victim. But
yeah.
I mean, we don't really know. I mean, he could have killed more people.
Because he waited a year and called them again.
Yeah, I mean, there's a whole time frame. So who knows what he'd done in all that time. So, I mean, if he's going to kill those 4 people just because, and like he said with that one boy, I was in a bad mood, like, there's probably others that they don't know about.
I'm in a bad mood. I don't think they're going to shoot somebody.
No, normal people don't, okay? Just be like, I'm in a shit mood today, I'm going to go out and shoot somebody. No.
Who said I'm live?
No. I mean, you're in a bad mood, you sit at home and watch a movie and don't talk to people.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah.
Maybe drink a little drinky drink, but like don't. Like I don't know. I guess because like you say, because we are normal. I just in my mind, I don't.
I mean, feel like I could. Is, I guess.
Yeah, I just don't feel like I could do something like that. No. Like there's been points where I've been really, really mad, and I just want to strangle somebody. I mean, me and my sister got in this fight one year, and the only thing I saw was black, and I went straight for the throat.
Yeah, that's totally normal.
I know, but it's
sibling fights.
But it's just the thought of I don't know.
Yeah,
I really want to get into I really want to interview somebody.
Oh, I know. I would love to get in their brain.
Yes.
Like just be
like why? Like just pick away.
I think a lot of us do. That us that are in the criminal, YouTube thing. Like, we all want to get in their brains. Mm-hmm. Like that's why we do this. That's why we enjoy, researching these things and talking about it and putting it out there. Because you get with like-minded people and you're sitting there going, "Oh my God, yeah, I want to look. I want to know about this. I want to know about that. I wonder what he was thinking." So
I would love to want to know what makes them tick.
Yeah,
in the way.
Yeah, and another way would be scary. I think it'd be kind of odd.
Yeah, a little bit.
It's like, do you really want to know?
I mean, like you always get that weird feeling, like when I don't think I can think of it. It's like when Oma died and you went and did her hair, and like we know, okay, she's dead, like she's all that stuff, but just the thought, because like I had that weird feeling of she just going like that. Yeah. Like that's how I guess I would have that weird feeling talking to like somebody like a serious. I want to be behind the class.
Oh yeah, he wouldn't want to be. I ain't going in the room with him. Forget that.
I don't know. I maybe like once I would like to do it just a few times behind the glass and then maybe sit down across from them. They're a little ballsy.
So weird.
I don't know. I think I can handle myself. Throw an elbow or two.
Throw an elbow.
Yeah, that was crazy.
Yeah, that was a little bit of a short one this time, but I mean, as far as his background and all the things, there's really not much on it. And there's really not much on why he did the things he did. Like, it just, because
like he just did it for shits and giggles.
I mean, who says I was in a bad mood that day? So it just sounds like he just nutty.
Yeah, nutty professor.
Yeah. But, I mean, we don't know either, like, as far as his childhood and everything that happened growing up, or if being in Vietnam somehow
PTSD.
messed with his mind, but
yes.
Let's see. Hang on a minute, because one moment, I'm going back in my notes. So, okay, he was drafted into the Army in 1968.
Because back then, like, the boys had to.
Yeah,
they drafted in. So.
But he shot Bernard in 1967. So screw the whole Vietnam thing. He was crazy before he went to Vietnam. So never mind. Hey, he's just funny.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, whatever. Do you, not do you. I mean, I guess it's a good thing that he's off himself.
I know, because
one less crazy person in the world. Because, who knows? They could have been like, 30, 40 years he's been in jail. And they're like, okay, you're released. And he goes right back to doing it. And then they go right back. And then somebody instant loses their life.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's in a way, it's like,
Yeah, at least he's not here to hurt other people.
Yeah. Bye, Felicia.
Yeah. For real. Well, thanks for hanging out with us. I know that was a short one today, but we will see you in our next video. Bye-bye.